Gentleman from Tennessee seek recognition.
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend the rules and pass H.R. 6943, the Public Safety Officer Support Act of 2022.
The clerk will report the title of the bill.
H.R. 6943, a bill to amend the Omnibus Crime Control and Safe Streets Act of 1968 to authorize public safety officer death benefits to officers suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder or acute stress disorder and for other purposes.
Pursuant to the rule, the gentleman from Tennessee, Mr. Cohen, and the gentleman from Oregon, Mr. Bentz, each will control 20 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Tennessee.
Unanimous consent, all members 5 legislative days, revise and extend extraneous material on the bill.
Without objection.
Yield myself as much time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Public Safety Officer Support Act of 2022 is another bipartisan bill that will expand eligibility for public safety officers' benefits programs to include stress and trauma-related injuries and death by suicide for law enforcement officers and their families. According to research from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administrations, public safety officers are 25 times more likely to develop acute stress disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, or other mental health conditions than the general public. They got a tough job. Studies have shown that law enforcement officers could experience more traumatic events in 6 months than the average person will experience in a lifetime. The Public Safety Officers Benefits Program, known as PSOB, provides death and education benefits to survivors of fallen law enforcement officers, firefighters, and other first responders, as well as disability benefits to officers catastrophically injured in the line of duty. Currently, this law excludes from eligibility families of officers who die by suicide and does not deem PTSD and other trauma-related disorders to be line-of-duty injuries. This limitation not only fails to recognize that mental health is physical health, but it also prevents the federal government from providing support to officers who put their safety and well-being on the line every day for the communities they serve. Former Representative Patrick Kennedy passed a bill to make mental health and physical health parity. He worked with Senator Ted Kennedy to get that done. Why law enforcement wasn't included was a mistake. We're rectifying that mistake today. The Public Safety Officer Support Act would right past wrongs and ensure that families of police officers and first responders receive critical financial assistance as they grieve the loss of their loved ones. It would also ensure that officers who are disabled as a result of traumatic events receive the support and care that they need. This legislation will also bring this program into alignment with the provisions of federal military death benefits for the families of military service members who die by suicide. The need for this worthy and overdue change is even more apparent as we continue to grieve the tragic loss of 4 police officers who died by suicide after responding to the attack on the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. They tried to defend us. They did defend us, and they unfortunately died by suicide as aftermath effects of the January 6th. In addition to expanding eligibility for death and disability benefits to officers and their families, this bill will require the GAO to study benefits provided under the expansion. This report will help us better understand the prevalence of traumatic events that law enforcement officers, first responders, and other public safety officers face, and the need to further support their mental health needs. I thank Representatives Trone and Reschenthaler for introducing this bipartisan legislation and for their continued support for public safety officers serving communities across the country. This bill is broadly supported by both mental health and law enforcement groups, and I urge my colleagues to support it, and I reserve the balance of my time.